India, in recent times often considered the pariah of the aviation world. Over the last several years, there have been countless reports of disappointing, sometimes even horrifying experiences, from everyday travelers through to famous travel reviewers and major news outlets. So, when I found a pretty good deal on a premium cabin award fare from Seoul to New York via New Delhi, one that involved a 15-hour leg in first class no less, I decided to take the plunge and see for myself, spending a total of 35 hours in Air India's care. The business class leg now complete, it's time to see what first class on Air India has to offer. Well, that was pretty neat. I disembarked the plane and there was a gentleman waiting there with a sign with my name on it. He took my carry-on and proceeded to escort me all the way through the transfer process, and that expedited everything. I didn't have to wait in line for a single thing. And then he continued on and escorted me all the way through to the lounge and deposited my things there for me. Well, here we are in the Air India lounge. There is a first class side and the business class side all in the same lounge. So let's go take a look. As flagship facilities go, the New Delhi Air India First Class Lounge is actually rather, well, small, and shared with the business class lounge through an open access corridor that is not monitored at all as far as I can tell. The decor is elegant business casual, and while some traditional Indian motifs are echoed, I feel as though Air India is really missing out on the stunning colors and luxurious furnishings that stretch back thousands of years in Indian culture. I mean, this space could just as easily be New York as New Delhi. Nevertheless, the lounge does feature a variety of comfortable chairs, including napping recliners, along with universal outlets. In terms of facilities on the first class side, there is a snack bar with some extremely industrial-looking prepackaged food options. Not precisely what I would consider a first class or even business class experience, honestly. And not kept very clean, especially considering how few people there are here to clean up after. I'm one of two, and I just arrived. The first-class beverage bar offers a box of low-caliber pre-bagged tea sweepings, disappointing for a country with its own tea-growing industry, a standard self-serve coffee dispenser, and a fridge of equally standard beverages in plastic bottles. Well, what do you think, dear viewer, of first-class catering experience? Facilities in this lounge also include showers, of which I fail to make use, mea maxima culpa. After wandering around a bit, I locate the hot food options in the business class side of the lounge. The counters are quite worn out and could use a refresh, but there are multiple curries on offer, all of them quite tasty, and spiced to Indian levels of heat, so diner beware. I consume everything quite happily with a handkerchief on hand to stem the flow of defensive liquids my nose starts producing. Back in the first class side of the lounge, a server does come to take a beverage order once, but otherwise I am left entirely to my own devices during my 8-hour stay. Definitely feels more like business class service, although the business class lounge is distinguished by being packed with people. So maybe first class here simply means solitude rather than enhanced service and offerings? And in here, we have a napping room, which is great. Basically a little mini bedroom, complete with bedding and blankets. Just come in and close the door and use it, which I think I'm going to do shortly because I'm tired. Well, just up from my nap. The bed was pretty comfortable. I mean, it's firm, but not as firm as some Korean beds can be. It was exactly what I needed. And yes, the room is a little bit austere, especially if you compare it to, say, the Turkish Airlines lounge rooms. However, the Turkish Airlines lounge rules for getting access to those rooms are so arcane and bizarre that I've never been allowed to access them, because your layover can only be between 4 and 9 hours, and my layovers in Istanbul are usually 9 hours and 50 minutes. So, as I say, the private sleeping room to which you have access is always superior to the private sleeping room to which you have no access. Eventually, boarding is called, and I head out excitedly to my gate, eager for my onboard first class experience to commence. So I thought I would mention as we walk to the gate that the problem with the Air India lounge is the same problem shared by many contemporary lounges, is that they're no longer built to be separate spaces blocked off and walled off from the rest of the airport. They are now basically right on the main areas They're not really walled off in any way, so all of the airport sounds come in. So every time there was an airport announcement, the ding dong sound that is universal to pretty much every airport I've ever been in, heralding, presaging some matter of importance, would come in and awaken me from my sleep. And then, of course, there was a cacophony of slamming doors everywhere throughout the lounge, it seemed like, and vacuum cleaners going, and so it was not the most restful sleep, I'll say. I definitely miss lounges that are separate from the susurrus of noise and not part of it. The boarding process is chaotic, with the definition of queuing up seeming to be mass pile of humanity rushing for the gate. I fight my way through the first class boarding line and am printed out a new boarding pass with a different seat assignment, which makes me wonder why in a cabin with only 4 seats. Anywho, I proceed through a separate jet bridge to the plane, a Boeing 777-300 extended range. I am warmly welcomed on board, shown to my seat, and told where I can stow my bag. However, no offer is made to stow my bag for me. I then proceed with the ritual of unpacking and laying out everything I will need to occupy me for the next 15 hours. During which time, welcome beverages are brought around, including champagne, but I boringly choose water, preferring to hydrate rather than dehydrate. And with the offer of a beverage, the real first-class service commences, with my personal flight attendant Ashwin coming and introducing himself by name and insisting that I should call on him for anything I desire. He is super warm, friendly, and energetic, certainly a sign of the new Tata Air India. Yay, PJs. The small medium. Thank you. More PJs. Yay. I'll be changing into these directly. Pretty nice cast of ingredients, actually. As I settle in, I start to notice that not everything is quite working in my seat. Immediately, I notice that the reading light refuses to turn on. Speaking of the seat, let's take a look at our suite in the sky. This cabin has a 1-2-1 configuration, and I am in the center area, which has the most headroom. The leather seats are super wide and comfortable, and while some might find the gold-colored trimmings outre, I rather like them. 2 pillows await, one satin and the other a more practical cotton, along with a petite throw blanket on the ottoman. Seatside storage offers several options. Here, we have the remote control and outlets, with a bit of room for a small item like my sewing pouch. There is also a closet with hangers and a secret pair of slippers. And this seat side pocket is large enough for my laptop, sort of. The table emerges from here, but has certainly seen better days and no longer closes fully. I locate a second light hidden here off to the side of the chair, maybe a backup reading light, which obviously I'm going to need. As a side note, much later on in the flight, once we have daylight streaming through the windows, the sorry state of this cabin becomes abundantly clear, not only falling apart at the seams, but also filthy in parts that indicate a chronic level of cleaning neglect. The way things look, this cabin passed its expiration date years ago. Soon enough, we push back, which means safety video time. I love how here the child glances smugly at their misbehaving parent. Well, as we were reaching climbing altitude, I tried to put my leg rest up, and I noticed that the seat was not responding at all, and I suspected that the seat might in fact be broken. And I was right. So the seat I was assigned doesn't work. It won't go into lie flat mode, but thankfully there is one seat left, the one right next to me. And so now I have my sleeping seat and my eating, working, and doing things seat. So it works out, but I wonder what would have happened if they'd actually sold out first class, because there's 3 of the 4 seats are actually occupied, so that could have resulted in some unpleasantness. Anyway, I'm enjoying some pre-bed green tea, and then it's to beddy time with me. See you all in hopefully about 8 hours. Well, my dear and terribly apologetic Ashwin makes up my sleeping bed for me with a padded mattress, cover, and duvet, ensuring that everything is perfectly tucked in, folded, and arranged. Top-notch service. And after finishing my tea in my dining room, I transfer to my bedroom for a good night's sleep. And about 6 hours later, awaken refreshed and hungry. It is at this point that I realize why my seat was changed from the original seat to the one next to it. In my so-called bedroom, the in-flight entertainment system does not work at all, while in my office cum dining room, the seat does not work at all. So if I want to use the in-flight entertainment to, say, listen to music while I sleep, I have to utilize the in-flight entertainment from my living room. So, indeed, it takes both of the pods to give me all the functionality that one seat would normally provide. Not exactly ideal in any class of service, let alone first, and especially not on a 15-hour flight. It is at this point that I notice also that noise-canceling headphones have not been distributed. I ring for Ashwin, who very kindly points to the headphones in an unobtrusive paper bag at my feet. These are the same low-caliber headphones offered in their business class product. They sit on my head as though made for a non-humanoid creature's pate and cancel about as much sound as a piece of paper would. Not even business class worthy, let alone first. But back to hunger. I ring for Ashwin, and he comes to take my order. Now, at this point, I have not seen a food menu. Only bar menus were handed out, which I find sort of odd. But Ashwin has a printed menu in his hands, and he reads the options to me, and also mentions a daily special of various tikka that are not included on the printed menu. Yay for specials. He sagely suggests a mixed platter of the tikka, and I accept his wise recommendation. Meal service unfortunately highlights further issues in the aged and venerable hard product, specifically that the table slants awkwardly to the right, which is not wonderful for keeping food on the table. But soon, another flight attendant, Ashwin has gone on break at this point, and deservedly so, brings out my tikka appetizer platter and identifies each item for me. My special order version mojito with no sugar, and the mixed platter consisting of mor kofta, chicken tikka, paneer tikka, and batata vada, served with a creamy yogurt mint dip. Scrumptious and some of the best chicken tikka I've ever had, either in the air or on the ground. The main course follows. I've chosen the mor rezala kofta, which is accompanied by raita, served in a lovely clay vessel, dal in a porcelain bowl, and a bread selection in a lovely basket. Note that I set the utensils. Everything was provided in a napkin. The curries are indeed quite tasty, but nothing that would distinguish themselves as first class. Next comes the dessert course, which features, well, rather too much food. A mango mousse cake, a traditional Indian vermicelli pudding, a fresh fruit platter, and a cheese platter. Okay, my thoughts. The food is exactly the same as it was on my business class flight from Seoul to Delhi. So the difference is this was taken out of its package and plated as individual components, and it was heated up with more skill because it wasn't overheated. But it was exactly the same thing, and that's disappointing. The layout was obviously more elegant. It was plated up separately, which is exactly what I would, at the minimum, expect from a first-class product. And I loved the little pot in which the yogurt came. But the fact that it's exactly the same food as was served in business class, that's not on Air India. There should be a different level of food being offered in a first-class product. The dessert is also pretty much exactly the same. Exactly the same cheese, fresh fruit, and dried fruit as on the business class leg of this voyage. The exception is that we have this kheer and the pudding. Also, this is not aged English cheddar. English cheddar does not have annatto added to it. I don't know what this is. Also on the disappointing side, the cutlery and tableware are nothing like the place setting from the Air India first class promotional materials, where a highly elegant gold-plated service complete with matching porcelain salt and pepper shakers are provided. So, service is really the highlight of this whole experience. All of my attendants have been amiable, effusive, and very willing to go to the top level of service. What do you think, dear viewer? First class or not? Well, after eating, time for some exercise. A perk of having a suite in the sky is that one can stay active during the 15-hour flight with squats, planks, and tricep dips. And of course, get some work done in either my bedroom or my dining room. And while I'm working in my bedroom, my team of flight attendants checks up on me regularly, bringing me fresh tea and snacks without me even needing to ask. Now, this is what really transforms this flight into a first-class experience, the amazing service from Ashwin and his team. They really seem to take genuine joy in providing amiable, attentive service. Okay, well, I asked if I could have a pot of tea because in all the advertising for Air India's first class, they show this beautiful silver tea service. There is no silver tea service, and they didn't even load pots onto the plane. Ashwin, my flight attendant, was most apologetic. It's not his fault, though. It's Air India's fault for not planning to have the right materials on board. Instead, we have this. He said he'd bring me a large mug of tea. So again, they've got this expensive drinks menu, this menu of very high quality, high caliber alcoholic beverages, including Laurent Perrier Champagne, right? But they're never, it seems to me that no attention is ever paid to those of us who don't drink alcoholic beverages and the premium quality of those beverages. For example, this tea, Tetley, its tea sweepings, it's mediocre at best. I really would have hoped that in a first-class product on Air India, it would be loose-leaf tea, and you would have fresh whole spices mixed into a pot, like cardamom pods and whole cloves and that sort of thing. So that's disappointing. And yes, I know, hashtag Contessa World problems, but I'm going to emphasize again, dear viewer, that this is a premium product. Pay thousands of dollars for this ticket. You should expect premium level of goods all across the board, not just the alcoholic beverages, but the non-alcoholic beverages. We are now at about hour 11 of 15, and it is time for a second meal. The flight thus far has been very smooth, both literally and figuratively, with Ashwin and his crewmates continuing to check on me regularly. Having consumed enough tea to power a hydroelectric plant, I decide to order a low-calorie version of the Virgin Mojito. Sparkling water, fresh mint, lime juice, and a splash of orange juice. Beautifully crafted and exactly to taste. This is accompanied by the off-menu special appetizer of paneer and chicken tikka, items that are not on the business class menu, along with the shrimp. The paneer and chicken tikka are both delicious, and the shrimp is cooked and presented perfectly. Ashwin brings the next course and lays it out with great care. He has plated up the morg rezala kofta and buta palak beautifully. It comes with chutney and naan. The naan is nothing to write home about though, although bread on a plane can be problematic no matter what. The curries are solidly scrumptious, although I'm not certain they exactly qualify as first-class fare. The lack of lamb on the menu, for instance, is intensely disappointing. For dessert, the same fruit and cheese platter once more. Look, on a 15-hour flight, one needs a lot of fruit to help with hydration. The meal being done, time to freshen up. So time for the lavatory tour. While the first-class bathroom is certainly larger than the business class, nearly twice as big, in fact, but that doesn't really say much, it is about as visually exciting as your average hospital lavatory and certainly lacks the features of the first-class facility found on other airlines. No decorative elements to really highlight the gorgeous colors and motifs so emblematic of Indian culture. No luxury amenities like hand cream or facial wash. Just some random eau de toilette in a plastic bottle and a dubious travel-sized mouthwash. Paper towels rather than cloth ones. This space barely seems business class, let alone first. Back out in my sleeping seat, hot towels are served. They smell delightfully of lavender. Well, let's go ahead and explore our in-flight entertainment. So as you see, you can set the language between English and Hindi, and then you've got movies, TV, music, games, in-flight shopping, of course, info, and I'm not certain what broadcast is. No, music did not work my entire flight, sadly. In the movies department, there are quite a few movies in general, but in terms of latest English, which is basically new release Hollywood, yeah, the selection is pretty limited compared to competitor products. There's literally just these 2 pages. That's it. That's it for the new releases. It's very slow to respond. Yeah, so these are the so-called classics. It's under TV, we've children, comedy, again, English and Hindi. Yeah, there's 3 episodes of comedy. It's not exactly overwhelming, so it's a somewhat limited selection, shall we say. On the English front, the Hindi front has way more content, I will say, which I guess makes sense. It is Air India, their native national language is Hindi. No games, it kicks back to movies. Sky Bazaar also kicks back to movies. Info goes to... It's very slow to respond. About us and route maps. Wow. So, yeah, there it is. Oh, external camera. Let's see if the external camera works. Nope, those aren't available either, so it seems like quite a bit of the in-flight entertainment is sadly not available. Okay, well, let's go ahead and explore our To Me Amenity Kit. First off, they hand it out separately, but it's sort of part of it. This Abati Suisse Stay Hydrated Natural Lip Treatment, which actually features almost all 100% edible ingredients that you could get in your local field or maybe even your local grocery store. So it's pretty good. I put it on my face at the beginning of the flight actually, it's lip balm. I used it on my whole face, and actually it seems to have done a pretty good job of keeping things hydrated despite the, you can see the glisten, despite the severe dehydration of the Boeing 777. So then the usual thing from Tumi saying that you can engrave this monogrammed with your own name for free at a local Tumi store, full price Tumi store, not an outlet. An eye mask, Tumi eye mask, fuzzy on one side, plasticky on the other. Dapper socks. Little pack of tissues. I'll be needing these. Malin & Goetz products, Malin & Goetz moisturizer, and facial mist. Excuse me, replenishing facial mist. And of course, toothbrush, which is plastic and not so sustainable, and Colgate toothpaste, and finally, a pen. And this is all in a semi-hard pleather Tumi kit. Tumi is, of course, a super expensive brand of suitcases and luggage. And what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Is this our first class amenity kit? Let me know in the comments below. As our descent commences, I actually have a very interesting conversation with one of my neighbors, an Indian businessman who travels Air India quite frequently to the US. He tells me that Air India pilots and crew are trained to handle evasive maneuvers in order to avoid missiles from hostile countries. I think he means this as a way of praising the level of competence of the crew, but it only serves to unsettle me. In any case, no matter their combat credentials, the crew who took care of me during these 15 hours was attentive, detail-oriented, and extremely pleasant. Ashwin was a delight, and I would be honored and pleased to fly with him again. 2 thumbs up for the service. Definitely first class. By contrast, however, the extremely dilapidated and malfunctioning hard product is in desperate need of complete overhaul. And the menu also needs to be elevated to align with first-class standards offered at similar price points on other national flag carriers. What are your thoughts, dear viewer? Worth the $7,798 price tag one way? Well, until next time, dear viewer, may your travels be creative and stay tuned for your moment of kitty zen. Really? Well, come on. Come on. Come on. What are you doing? Timmy. Timmy. Psst, psst, psst. Timmy, come on. Here we go. You always go in face first. Meow, meow. Meow, meow. Who's a happy kitty? Yeah.